Ted Coop, the CEO of Evergreen Life Care. It is a relatively new name, but for an institution that's been around for a while. Tell us what you do.
Okay, well, I'm the CEO at Evergreen Life Care, and we're a not-for-profit charitable organisation. We've been in existence for some 18 years, formerly known as Gosford RSL Leisure Living. And in July, we changed our name and our brand to Evergreen Life Care Limited. We provide services in aged care for retirement living, residential aged care and community care.
And that's Coast Care, is that?
It's Coast Home Help is a community service. Yep.
We might come around to touch on all of those. Plus there's an acquisition at Tea Gardens?
Yes.
Or is that from a scratch?
It was. Last year we commissioned a new facility. It opened in August, and it is basically a residential aged care facility. The first stage is 36 beds, and that's been in operation for just over 12 months now. And we've added, in the last 12 months, we put in a community facilities such as cafe, hairdresser and consulting suites, which we intend to use for general community use.
Now your history is in aged care and
health and aged care. Yeah. I've been involved in public hospitals, private hospitals, the Department of Health, and in aged care.
And other provincial regions as well?
Yes, I've been all over in the Riverina,
right,
and in the Hunter, and now here on the Central Coast.
Okay. Coming to the Central Coast, it's an unusual environment, although we think it's unusual. Tell us from an aged care point of view whether it's unusual.
Well, from an aged care perspective, one of the differences with the Central Coast from places I've previously been at is there are a lot more facilities on the Central Coast than in other areas I've been at. And there seems to be a good spread of various types of residential aged care and also retirement villages in the area.
So where is the challenge? We've spoken to a few CEOs and the like. It's a tough business.
Aged care is a tough business. You have the retirement village side of the industry, which is not too bad. I mean, that sort of is a viable type of business, but then you get into residential aged care and it's pretty tough. It's pretty regulated. Everyone says there's not enough money in it, so you have to really make the money spin out the way that you want it to spin out and provide good standard care. A good standard of care that meets the and is compliant with the accreditation standards. So it's a pretty tough gig.
Are we developing, if we've got, would you say a greater per head bed count on the Central Coast, or is it just that our population actually needs?
That's an interesting question. The demographics with regard to the allocation of beds, I guess, is changing in the sense that the focus is now on community care, providing care in the home. So the numbers for residential places is pretty much what would be expected now when you look at the criteria used for that. So the focus is really swinging away from residential care to more care in the home, and that's what people want. That's what they're after now. And moving forward, if you're asking the generations that are thinking about going into retirement in the next 10, 15 years, people want to remain in their home for as long as they can.
And the government wants us to as well, don't they?
They do, yeah. That's it. That's the focus. It's
after all, we are here to help the government.
That's right. It's not only a cheaper proposition for the government, but or for the taxpayer, but I think the outcome's a lot better too in that direction.
Okay. The challenges that you face over the next 12 months?
The challenges for us, well, there are reforms that have been announced by the federal government with regard to aged care, and that's basically, as I said, there's going to be a shift from residential to community, so there will be a lot more competition to provide or to obtain funding for those services. There's going to be a better choice for consumers. People will be able to have more of a say in what sort of care that they want. And
what does that mean?
Well, it won't be as prescriptive as it has been. If people want certain services in their home, it may be care, it may be house maintenance, it may be grounds maintenance, But if there's services to keep people at home, they will have more choice in deciding where that will come from and who will provide it. So that's going to be a big change for providers in aged care.
Yeah. And coastal home or home care, that works in that space already, I'm presuming.
Yeah, Coast Home Help is a service that we've had now for about 10 years, and it currently it provides a service for other providers. So we act as a broker, providing care for people in home, mainly aged, and there are some child programs that we do provide care for. But what we intend to do is we want to get involved more in the community aged care packages, and we'll be applying for funding to undertake that service.
And you've been successful recently in some funding into the ageing population of lesbian, gay. Help me out. The initial stuff.
Okay, we've been successful in obtaining Commonwealth Government funding for a 2-year period under the flexible aged care grants, and the project is known as the LGBTI Elders Wellbeing Program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, LGBTI is the acronym for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual and intersex people. And the project that we're looking at is, or that we have been funded for, is a specifically focused project to enhance the capacity of other providers to provide services for that community. Mm-hmm. So we'll be looking at education services that aged care providers may need. We'll be looking at training, insensitivity training for staff. We'll be looking at education packages for the general community, a website that people can go to who want to find out about services in the.
And is that by region? So you've got the funding for the Central Coast, or is it
this project it covers 5 regions, from the North Coast, the Hunter, Central Coast, Inner West and Blue Mountains.
Wow.
So it's a big area, and we've recently appointed a project officer who will be kept quite busy in getting to know those areas and what the people's needs are.
And in terms of where the opportunities are in your space, what would you like to see change in the next couple of years, do you think? Other than asking for more money, and we can't do that.
Yeah, well, everybody's asking for more money, but I think it's just a matter of really focusing on what you're good at. And I think that's going to be the difference. People will have to provide some kind of specialty in their services that they provide, so they have to be different. So our expertise will be in developing what we do now, and it will be in marketing our services that appeal to what people in our areas of service want, and doing that in a way that is efficient and effective, is consumer related and is viable.
We talk about the core competencies, and if you look after older or ageing people, is that as specific as you get?
Well, ageing covers a wide age span, I guess. You can go from.
How do you define it then? Yeah.
Well, to me, it's looking after people that may be in the 55 plus age group. If you might have people retiring at early ages, and it goes through to residential aged care, that's nursing home type care, and it goes through to even palliative care for people living in residential aged care, and also community care. And those services that go with that, so it may be providing specific palliative care for people who live at home and who want to remain at home. So it's really fine-tuning all those type of services to meet the needs of the people who want them.
Indeed. The rebranding that you go into, has broadened your footprint and tea gardens. Do you actively pursue a strategy of growth like that?
We do. Well, in our expansion of services to places like tea gardens, and with our opportunities that may exist for us in community care, we felt that the Gosford RSL Leisure Living name was probably in need of a a refreshing.
Geographically inappropriate.
That's right, and it was a bit limiting in both geography and in the services that we provide. So it came time to look at what sort of name we should have, and we engaged a consultant to do that with us, and after negotiations with stakeholders and finding out what people wanted, what they thought about the existing name, Evergreen Life Care came up, and that jumped out and grabbed us, and now we're running with it. And
we shouldn't hesitate. That was a brilliant logic.
It was brilliant
solution.
Logic, they were great in speaking to our clients and hearing what they thought about the change, because name changes aren't always easy. But generally speaking, the acceptance by our people has been great. And
there is, I guess, a positive relationship between the RSL, but that the financial relationship was severed quite a while ago.
That's right. Yeah. So we still have a strong relationship with the RSL club. We're next door, so we. A lot of our clients use the services of the club, and vice versa. The club uses some of our services as well, and we hope that will continue.
Mm-hmm. Is there, if you knew, say 20 or 30 years ago, what you now know about the healthcare and aged care area, what would your advice be to someone starting up?
What, in that industry?
In that industry, yeah.
Well, probably to be aware that the market's going to open up. It's going to be quite competitive, and you have to have a good service and so-called good product to present to people. So be mindful of that and really develop that in a good way.
Competition in this space, and this may not be a question for you to answer, and we can cut it out if you don't want to. Is competition the solution, do you think?
Well, that's what we're finding from the consumers, that they're saying that they want more choice.
Right.
So choice means competition, I guess, and it all leads to that. So and what will happen, and what's going to happen, is that consumers will be directing where their care is going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's government funding, there may be a pocket of money given to a client, and the client will be able to pick and choose where their services come from. It may not be one provider, it may be half a dozen providers, but they will have the choice. And I guess that really is what it's going to be about.
Okay. The biggest challenge for aged care on the coast, what would that be?
The biggest challenge is adapting to the reforms in aged care, especially in the residential sector. It will also be a matter of finding your market, finding your niche in the market, and developing that and promoting it, providing opportunities for people as to what you offer. And I guess it will be a matter of meeting the accreditation standards that are going to be set
within that funding level.
Within that funding level. Yeah. People are pretty savvy now about what they want, and with the accreditation system currently in place, people know who are good providers and who aren't. So that will say a lot in who succeeds into the future.
Two areas I'd love to talk about. One is Wyong Council has taken a position to use aged care as a potential growth strategy for employment and development of the economy. And the second is whether you guys actually get together as an industry and a cluster and have a strategy overall. So we might just take the Wyong position. Is there opportunities in that space for us as a region to become more viable with aged care?
I guess the Central Coast in demographic terms, has a fairly high level of ageing population. The fact that it's been a retiring area, I guess, for a number of years just would indicate that. So you would expect the aged care industry to be growing as people age. So there's that opportunity, I guess, there. And that may mean that there may be more providers come into the area. But I really believe that perhaps the industry, at the moment we have various high number of providers in the Central Coast. Whether or not that continues in the future, I don't know. There may be some amalgamations, there may be some mergers, because I think the bigger you are, the better you can do, I guess, with the low amount of dollars that are available. So yes, there is potential. I think people are working together now. You have the not-for-profit sectors and have their own regional peak body group that meets regularly to find out what's happening in the industry. You have your for-profits, and they'll be looking after a certain market, I guess, and you have independent providers that will continue to be that way.
Is there a discussion underway at that government level to say, okay, Wyong just kind of threw it out there, and I applaud them for doing that, but has there been any consultation and development of a strategy there, do you think, or that you're aware of?
Not specifically for the Central Coast, but nationally there's a strategy in place, and I guess that can be sort of wound down to the local level. But there is a strategy. I guess each area will look at how that develops within the national strategy, and people will either sort of look at what they're doing now, look at where they'll be in 5-10 years' time, and look at what they need to get there. I guess that's what it will be.
Then to the final space, which is there a cluster of aged care and ageing professionals that actually regularly gets together?
There is, there's certain interest groups, and and as I mentioned, most of the organisations belong to a peak body of some kind. And I know on the Central Coast there is a regional group for that national body that meets regularly, and that sort of that hears what's going on, it hears what other people are doing, and it gets all the latest information on strategies that may be in place or could be put in place.
Effective?
It is reasonably effective, but I guess people work within their own organisation, so whether or not that needs.
We're renowned for having 27 silos on the Central Coast, and if we've got 27 aged care groups on the 20, that's not helping a lot of people.
That's right, and the market, I think, will really determine how all that goes. It may be that in the years ahead that small players, for example, might have to think about what their future is, and they may have to merge, or
it's about deregulation, isn't it? Of the marketplace.
It is. And that's what's that's what's going to happen, deregulation, and that, of course, that throws up other issues for a lot of people. We live in interesting times. Thank you.
Okay.
We do.